What's up, everybody? Brad Bethune back with you again. Another Tuesday episode. This week, got CASA here, CASA of Denton. Wanted to share a little bit with you. I'm a huge kids charity advocate. I believe that life is about kids, not necessarily for kids, but it needs to be a highlight and an important part of your life, not only to support kids, but to give back to kids because they're our future. And I also know that they're going to be paying for me when I'm in the old folks' home. So that's another good reason. But I'm a big supporter of children's charities. And as we go on, you'll notice that I'll have more and more children's charities on to kind of highlight those that I don't think get the most publicity, those that aren't really huge into the public limelight, and just people that I like to support. And today, I live in Denton County, so I wanted to highlight CASA of Denton County, and they're court-appointed special advocates. They advocate for the best interest of children who have experienced abuse and neglect. And volunteers are supposed to build a strong, consistent relationship with each child and their family, promote community resources, and make informed recommendations to the court. Well, with us today is a very, very lovely lady, Debbie Jenson, Executive Director. She's also a graduate of Texas Women's University, go Denton, woohoo, and of Austin College. Thank you so much for your time today, Debbie.
Oh, thank you for having me, Brad. I'm thrilled to be here.
So tell us, how did you get into and how did you get started with CASA? You've been there for a minute. So how did you get involved with them? Let's start with that.
My involvement actually started in West Texas, where I was living and working in the newspaper business. And a lady came in to place an ad for a volunteer job. And when she started telling me all the things that the volunteer was going to do, I said, "You have to be kidding. This isn't a volunteer job. Testify in court, write court reports, investigate and monitor how children are doing." Well, that was CASA. And I quickly decided that was for me. And I became a CASA volunteer that year. That's been over 20 years ago.
Oh, wow.
When we moved to Denton in 2012, I told my husband, I'm going to get a job with CASA. And it took me a minute to do that, but I was thrilled that they did have a job opening. I got a job here at CASA of Denton County, and it was an incredible place to work. And now I'm the executive director. I'm starting my 5th year in that role. And I love working at this place. We have the most incredible staff, and not to mention a board that is hardworking and a bunch of volunteers who love children.
Well, I did mention, making recommendation, promote community resources, consistent relationship. And you'd mentioned a couple of other responsibilities. Like, what does that mean? What does that mean for a volunteer to go and walk beside a kid, their child, and their family? What does that entail?
It's one of the most incredible volunteer positions that you can possibly do. If you think about how volunteerism makes a difference, and it does, so many different types of volunteerism make a huge difference in people's lives. But this is really making an individual difference to a child or children that you're serving, because you're that consistent person in their lives during what can be the most difficult, challenging, sad, upsetting, and frightening time that a child can experience. They've lost everything in many cases. They've been removed from their home, taken out of everything they know, and had to live somewhere new. And then they see you, and they see you and see you and see you, and they know you're there for them and in their corner. And the same thing goes when you get into court. The judge sees you and sees you and sees you working on behalf of the children. And the judge knows that you're that consistent person in the child's life. And that's how they realize that they can depend on these informed recommendations that you're making on the child's behalf. Our volunteers are going out and getting school records, medical records. They're talking to people that are involved with the child and getting the child's point of view, the family's point of view, and just really learning everything they can about this child so they can speak in their best interest.
Man, that sounds completely intimidating on this side of the conversation. That sounds completely like building that relationship with that child. Yes, you've got organizations that kind of help do that. You've got other organizations that kind of give you a one-off, and you've got other organizations, community churches that are building relationships, and youth ministers that are building relationships. But to really walk with the child and the family side by side, that that takes a special kind of person. Can you tell us a little bit more about what type of volunteer, what pulls somebody's heart to do that?
Oh, it's so incredible. I always say that we have two types of volunteers. We have those who experienced maybe some abuse or neglect in their own
Mm,
childhood, and they want to give back, to someone else who's going through that. But then we have the other type of volunteer, and they say, I had a great childhood, but I know not everyone did. And so they're there to kind of take what they had and share it with someone else. And both are incredible role models and people who stand up for children. It does take a special person because you have to, you take that oath and you're there saying to the court, I will be here and I promise that I'll speak up on behalf of this child and I'll honor confidentiality. I will always tell the truth and all of those things. And that can be scary sometimes. It's a big responsibility, but so rewarding and so meaningful.
that you said take an oath. What's the process to become a volunteer?
It starts out with you come to one of our info sessions. It's kind of like an orientation, takes about 45 minutes. And by the end of that session, you will probably know if this is for you or not. Once you've done that, you'll get an application that you completely fill out. You have to give us references. You have to answer a lot of questions about yourself in that application. You go through a personal interview with two of our staff. And then we have a series of background checks. I'm sure that's no surprise. You have to pass a series of background checks. Then you go into training, and our training is about 30 hours, some of it in class and some that you do on your own time. Once you've completed that, you do get sworn in by a Denton County District Judge.
Hmm. Sounds like a lot of work, but I guess it's a rewarding work once you start that process of what we mentioned community resources. What community resources do you promote?
Oh, it's everything that you can imagine from therapy for children, family therapy, drug treatment, parenting classes. We just find, tutoring that children may need, special programs that can help with funding for the families, just anything that will help the child and this family to thrive. And we like to see children go back to their own families once this process is over.
Mm.
When it's safe and possible, all children should return home. If not, then we move in another direction. And then there are resources for children who won't be returning to their original family of origin. And maybe grandmother, aunt, someone else in the family is able to take that child in and raise them and become an important part of their lives.
Oh, interesting. Interesting. It seems like a very challenging but rewarding opportunity to serve. To
It is.
serve.
That's exactly what I would say.
Can you now you and I talked previously about the welfare across Texas, and that there were a lot of changes. Can you tell me more about the changes that you were mentioning?
Definitely. Our legislature last year passed House Bill 567, which the goal of it was not to remove as many children from their homes. I think the legislature really wanted to make sure that children weren't being removed unnecessarily. And so that has created some challenges, but they've also been overcome. So children get removed from their homes only in the most severe cases of abuse and neglect. In
Mm.
other cases, services might be court ordered for the child and family, but the children stay in the home with the parents. And luckily at CASA of Denton County, we've been able to start a program. And as of January 1st, 2023, we'll begin serving on those cases as well. For 30 years, we've only served children who were removed from their homes. But as things do, science has really caught up and has taught us that removal is not always the best option. And we can work with a family in other ways. So we're starting to do that in January. And we're starting our program we call Early Advocacy, where we will work with children who are still in their own homes, but there have been some abuse and neglect allegations, and
Mhm.
some things need to be worked out in the family so the children can remain with their parents and kind of put the pieces back together.
Now, you'd mentioned allegations. How often do you come across where allegations are false?
You know, Child Protective Services really takes care of that for us. They
Mhm.
investigate these cases completely before we get involved because
Okay.
they are really the first line. They get that phone call from the Texas Child Abuse Hotline and they begin a serious and thorough investigation of the case. And by the time it comes to CASA, it's been in a courtroom and the judge has decided that there's an issue
Oh,
that
wow.
needs to be addressed.
So it's really the. I hate to, I hate to kind of trivialize, but the only phrase I can come up with is it's a no brainer that y'all really need to get involved when it gets to y'all's point. Is I guess what I'm
Definitely.
thinking of.
Yeah, it's been through several authorities and experts, and it's been determined that there's an issue that needs to be addressed. And so that's what we're there for.
Fantastic. So we talked about volunteer. Talk to us about recruitment. You'd mentioned, and I had been noodling or thinking or you know, just trying to understand the recruitment of volunteers in special populations. That's got to be tough, especially in men and in, you know, different ethnicities in the men, the Black community, the Hispanic community. I mean, we're talking about segments that traditionally have been not the greatest, and I've raised my not the greatest in being connected with fatherhood and with like the stigma of and being included and into, and now to volunteer. I mean, that's got to be tough.
It can be difficult, and it's so important because, you know, these children are coming from different backgrounds, and we want to honor and respect their culture, where
Mm,
they come from. And so we want to make sure that we're doing service to them in the best possible way. And that includes, you know, who are you? Where have you come from? And what things are important to you because of that? Um, a little over half of the kids in foster care are generally boys. And so that's one of the reasons that men are so important to CASA is that we like for a little boy to be able to see someone who looks like him when he's dealing with so many issues and so many scary things and he knows, you know, that there's a problem. We'd like for him to be able to have a guy that he can say, that's my CASA, because
mm.
that just, yeah, I think it makes him feel so good. Um, but also special populations, Black and Hispanic volunteers are incredible for CASA because they really do help us to meet those special needs of children who come from different backgrounds and make sure that we're honoring that as we go through what can be a very difficult process for the child and family.
Hmm. Very interesting. How close do you work with the church communities in Denton? Because that is a very stand up or a way to get good quality men and men of faith and men of good character. Not all of them. I understand of what I'm saying, but still, I would think that that would be one working with the local churches would be someplace that would really give you a good connection.
Oh, definitely. In fact, there's a statewide program of which we are a part called CASA Church and Community. And the whole goal of it is to get the churches more involved with CASA so that we can get in there and recruit those special populations of volunteers that we need so much to serve our children.
Yeah. Are you concerned with the growth rate that Denton County is experience or explosion that's going on right now? I mean, that's got to be scary if you're having trouble recruiting now, 3, 5 years from now, when Denton's twice the population. That's got to be just terrifying.
It really can be tough when you think about it. But we think of the growth two ways. We think there will be more children and families in our community, which means there will probably be more abuse and neglect, but there will be more potential volunteers out there for us as well. And so we've really got both of those things. We just need to get out there and find the community volunteers that are going to help us be ready to serve every child who needs us in 2023 and on into the future.
Yeah, I was sitting here just thinking about we were talking about beforehand. You do events like Pulling for Kids, which is a sporting clay shooting tournament coming up, and then you just had an evening of elegance with wine reception and gourmet dinner. I mean, that's a lot of outreach. What other types of outreach do y'all do besides jumping on with guys like me and talking about?
Definitely. We love clubs and organizations throughout Denton County. I'd really like to put out there that CASA is willing and ready to speak to your club, church group, organization of any kind so that we can share our story. We have some incredible stories of the things that our volunteers have done for kids and the meaning that they've brought back into their lives and the hope that they've brought children. So please contact us to speak to your group. We also, April is Child Abuse Prevention Month, and we'll do activities during that month to help remind the community that child abuse is preventable and that we can all work together to lessen it and make it less of a problem throughout our community.
Yeah. What else do y'all do? How else do people how else can people learn about CASA Denton County?
Oh, our info sessions go on 3 times a month. You just need to look on our website, www.casadenton.org. And we've got all the times in there for our info sessions or orientations. And each one of those will give you all the information that you need and the understanding of more about what that role is so you can make a decision. Do I want to become an advocate for CASA? Or do I want to help CASA in some other way? We always need board members and just people to be ambassadors and go into the community and take our message.
Fantastic. How can they reach you?
Oh, they can email me at djensen@casadenton.org or call our office at 940-243-2272. And I'm at extension 101. I'm willing and ready to take your call anytime if you want to learn more about what we're doing. We really need the community. They've been there for us for 30 years. And I don't think that's going to change, but we just want to keep getting that message out there.
Yeah, one more thing. We talked about this. End of year Fund a Child. Just talk about your Fund a Child campaign real quick.
Oh, sure. We every year toward the end of the year, as the year closes out, we look ahead and we try to see how many more children we'll be serving the following year than we did in the previous year. And we set our goal based on that. So this year, we have raised almost enough money to serve the children that we need, but we're a little bit short of that. We need to raise $120,000 before the end of the year, and we've still got some to go. So that's 60 children that we can serve with that funding. So we just ask the community to help support us by funding a child. It costs $2,000 to serve one child for 1 year through the whole process, but any amount is helpful and goes toward the Fund a Child campaign.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Well, look, I really appreciate your time. I want to be judicious about it. Thank you so much for jumping on with me. I really appreciate it. Just thank you. And guys, if you want to support, if you want to do anything, if you feel like your heart's being tugged, I know I'm going to be doing some praying. I hope you're going to be doing some praying as well. If we just give me a call Debbie. Let's just have a conversation more about how we can help the kids, because I'm all about the kids, and I know you are too. Enjoy your rest of the day. Thanks for watching, and y'all stay classy.